Just so you know, today is the hottest day on record in the UK since records began. Pretty hot. And it's got me thinking, when we go back to Disneyland Paris in, I think like 15 days, how hot's it going to be then? And will we cope? We've spent a lot of time in theme parks over the last few years, and a lot of it has been in blistering heat. So I thought I would take this chance to give you a few tips on how to cope with the heat. A lot of these tips are coming from us doing it wrong and us getting burned or being hot and miserable and things like that. So I'm not professing to be an expert on health and safety, but I'm an expert on making mistakes, and I'm here to share them with you. So let's start with packing. What do I pack when I know it's going to be a really hot Disney experience? First of all, we have fans. I've got a few options. I've got this handheld rechargeable fan. It's quite bulky for the handbag, but it's doable and it's not too heavy. Back in the days when we used to push chairs around, we'd have two of these. One blowing at the child, my child, Bonnie, I do know her name, and the other one on the handle blowing up at our face as we push the pushchair. It was amazing. But to be honest, these days, what I use most is just a handheld fan. That's a bit noisy, isn't it? Takes up less space and it's light, and you can just kind of control the speed and the action and the direction a bit easier. Each to their own. I know people have ones that go round the neck and all sorts. What else? You might not think of this. Hot day umbrella. This is not for the rain. This is to use as a parasol and a shade, and trust me, it is an absolute lifesaver, and it does make a difference. Now, it makes so much of a difference that this time I actually went to the extent of buying one with UV plus 50 protection. It's quite thick material, and it's like double layered, so that it keeps things out. It's specially made to work as a parasol rather than just a rain umbrella, but it works for both. It is quite a lot heavier than my regular little light umbrella, so I tend to decide before I go whether the heat and the temperatures predicted warrant the UV one, or whether just a little umbrella will do. Either way, it's better than just having your back and neck baked by the sun. Ooh, sunglasses. Now, I know this might seem basic. Take your sunglasses. Yes, Lucy, we already had that on the list. Take 2 pairs. I lost my sunglasses mid-trip, and they don't sell adult sunglasses in the parks. I don't know why. They sell a small number of kids' sunglasses, but not adult sunglasses at all. Not in Disneyland Paris. I think they do in Disney World. We're doing a Disneyland Paris video. So make sure you take multiple pairs, because I was miserable. I'm a sunglasses wearer. But also on that note, if you are a prescription glasses wearer, which I'm not, but Hugh is, then you've got an added problem, because he's got some prescription sunglasses, but when you go in and out of rides and attractions and shops, they're often quite dark, so he has to constantly be taking them out,
putting them in his case, putting it back in his bag, getting his other ones out, and then he goes back outside again, he's swapping over.
And he's not someone who can go entirely without glasses, totally blind basically. Now, there's 2 solutions to this problem. He has gone in the past where he's taken his contact lenses and then worn normal sunglasses on top of it. I don't think he likes doing that either. It's a bit of a faff. So he's recently invested in these bad boys. They're part of my life now. But in all seriousness, it's just the most practical thing to do, and in that situation, comfort is everything. What else is on my packing list? Ooh, squeezy juices. There are water fountains all around Disneyland Paris that you can fill your bottles up at, but sometimes the water can be a bit stale. Hugh sometimes says it's a little bit eggy. I don't know, it's nice to sometimes hide the taste of the water with one of these, and you just into your bottle. And talking of bottles, get an insulated bottle. We used to go with the plastic, like, I suppose that kind of material, but sort of flaskish, and you just get really warm, tepid water. But since I switched to this in the parks, I have cold water all day, And then other things you might want to take. I know other people take the cooling sprays, the cooling towels. If they work for other people, that's fine. I don't want to recommend anything I don't use, but you know, it's options you can look into. So let's talk about dressing yourself appropriately. Now, this is particularly relevant if, like me, you like to Disney bound and dress up, because it's very easy to get caught up in the concept of Disney bounding and constructing these amazing costumes and not think about if they're comfortable and cool. One instance that springs to mind is I put together a beautiful Daisy Duck Disney bound that involved a purple woolen cardigan with pearls and a jacquard white dress topped off with yellow woolen tights to make my legs look like duck legs. It was 30 degrees and I wanted to rip it off my skin immediately. In fact, I did end up going into the toilets to get changed. It's not big, it's not clever. It made for one nice photo and then I was miserable. So now I kind of tailor my Disney bounds around what I know I'll be comfortable in. Example, I'm actually wearing my Dumbo Disney bound right now. So I've got a nice loose harem pantsuit on with a grey sports bra, and then I've just accessorised it. Yellow and red necklace, bosh. But don't always put comfort before style. I know it sounds wrong. You'll thank me later, you will. And on the same vein, I recommend sun hats, not ears. I know people love their ears, it's getting in with the spirit of things. But if it's very, very hot and the sun is beating down on you, for just good health, you need a hat on. Your shoes will be different in very hot weather. I know if I want to walk miles and miles and miles in this country, I tend to just wear my kind of ankle boot trainer things, but they allow for no expansion, no air circulation or anything, and in hot weather they're awful. In hot weather, I wear Crocs, I wear sandals, and I wear Skechers Go Walk, are very comfortable and very breathable, but nothing that's going to make your feet scream and cry and sweat. And then, this is a little bit TMI, but everybody deals with it. There's the chafing situation. Now, I personally have never tried a, what do they call it, chub rub, an anti-chafing stick, but I will just say I wear cycling shorts under everything. I wear dresses and pantsuits and harem suits, but I always have cycling shorts underneath for that very reason. While I'm talking to the ladies, let's talk about makeup. We're going to talk sunscreen in a minute. Makeup and sunscreen do not mix, so make sure that you have got a makeup brand that has SPF protection built in. I use Clinique Even Better Makeup with SPF 15. I'm in no way affiliated. This isn't one of those beauty vlogs, trust me. You don't want beauty tips from me. But I have my makeup, and underneath it I will be wearing City Block with 40 SPF. This is my everyday winter summer makeup. It just happens to have it in, and then when I need the extra protection I put that underneath it as well, and it's amazing. And I've never had so much as, you know, redness on my nose wearing those two between them. So I would highly recommend, not that brand necessarily, but there's plenty to go at in the beauty world. You can do your own research. And you know what, while I'm at it, men as well, you don't want to look like leathery old socks when you're older either. So get a men's moisturiser with SPF in it instead of putting on factor 50 thing that's going to clog your pores or trying to man it up and not wear anything. Get a nice moisturiser. Treat yourself. So talking about sun cream, do it before you put your clothes on, and the reason is that a lot of light cottons don't offer any protection from the sun. You can get burnt straight through them, but even if your clothes do offer protection from the sun, the places you're most likely to get burnt are kind of the bits around the edges where you haven't hit it with the sun cream when you're trying to not get it on your clothes. Do it before you put your clothes on. And we like to just stand Bonnet on a table in her pants and like she's getting a spray tan. Best way of doing it. Also, I set a reminder in my phone, I think I did every 4 hours when we were in Florida, to top up. And as soon as that reminder comes on, wherever we are, I'm like, oh, sun cream, let's have a think about which bits of your body you might have rubbed or rubbed off. The nose is the most common one, isn't it? But if you're putting a bag on and off your shoulder, you're most likely to have rubbed a bit of sun cream off that. But just put it all over anyway. If I'm saying to learn from mistakes we've made, Hugh once got badly burnt in New York because, well, he's got a floppy fringe like this, and then we went on a boat ride and the fringe went like that because of the wind, and he hadn't put sun cream under his fringe, and so he got really badly burnt right at the top of his forehead there. So just put it everywhere, put it everywhere. This is all about preparation for getting in the park now, isn't it, if I've started talking about sunscreen? So let's get a few other things on the go. I like to put my after sun in the fridge. It is so good when you get back and you might be feeling a little bit hot on your shoulders, you've been out a long time, and you put that cold aloe vera after sun on your shoulders. It is like pure bliss. After sun in the fridge. I'm going to repeat it again. After sun in the fridge. And while you're in the fridge, put your drinks in the fridge the night before. If you've got a nice insulated bottle like this, putting it in the fridge overnight, that should be enough to make it really, really nice and cold for most of the day. The best thing to do, of course, is to freeze a bottle of water before you go into the park. But if you're staying in a hotel, you're unlikely to have a freezer or a freezer compartment cold enough to fully freeze something. You can try. And one last one, I actually got this tip when I was doing Run Disney. It was going to be hot and I was running 36 kilometers and I was Disney bounding, and I didn't want to have embarrassing sweat marks in my brightly coloured running things. I mean, it's okay a little bit under the arms, but when you get into, like, you know, the crack down the back and everything, it's a bit. So just put a very light dusting of talcum powder in the areas that you think you might sweat, that you don't want people to see the sweat marks on. I'm talking just a light dusting under the boobs, down in the cleavage, maybe a bit on the lower back, maybe a bit lower than the lower back, you know what I'm saying? And it's absolutely amazing because I didn't run all 36 in one go. I ran a half marathon in the heat and I did sweat, but it didn't actually make it through the clothes because it had been absorbed by the talcum powder. You can try it, talc in your boobs. I never thought I'd be saying that on the internet. Right, I think that's all of the stuff advice I've got for you. So let's talk a little bit more behaviour and mentally preparedness. If you've got children, you know they don't cope well with the heat, and you know what happens when they don't cope well with the heat. So I had the chat with Bonnie last time we went, and I want to share the chat with you now. But I also think it's quite useful for all you adults watching to sort of get in the right mindset. Basically, when we were in Florida last month, the first couple of days were very hot and very humid, and Bonnie was doing the thing where she goes, I'm hot, hello, where we go, but not really saying anything in particular, just dragging her feet and being generally moaning. You know what they're like. So I don't want to start disciplining her and ruining her holiday and getting grumpy with her, and then we all get grumpy with each other. So I waited till like day 3. We were in a quick service restaurant, so we'd been sat down for a good 45 minutes. We were all cool, we're all feeling refreshed. Speaking of which, and I kind of said, look, Bonnie, when you get these general fed up moans on and you start doing general fed up noises, it doesn't help any of us have a good time. It doesn't make any of us have a better time. I said, what's a better idea is when you start feeling like that, do a little body scan and think, do I want a drink? Do I want to sit down? Do I desperately want an ice pop? Do I want to go back to the hotel? And whatever you think your body needs, you tell me or Daddy, and we'll always do the best we can to make you comfortable. And from that moment on, she was brilliant. For the rest of the 2 weeks, there was no problem with her going, Mummy, I think I need a drink. Mummy, my feet hurt, can I sit down? Mummy, am I able to have an ice lolly? And we would just buy her an ice lolly because poor kid needed it, you know. We've spent enough on this holiday that we don't begrudge her some ice lollies when the kid needs ice lollies. but just kind of teaching her how to assess herself and teaching her how to communicate with us meant that we all stayed in a good mood for the rest of the holiday then. She's 7, by the way, in case anyone's wondering. So you might talk slightly different to a 4-year-old, but I still think they'd understand that. You might talk different to your 12-year-old who's starting to get a bit hormonal. But I think that the advice itself sort of works. Tell us what you need. We will help you. I'm genuinely sweating here. Oh, let me see what the heat is. 38 degrees. 38 degrees. Right. More tips. Take breaks. Get some air conditioning. Get in the shade. This goes without saying, but I'm going to go one step further and say do this little and often. Rather than just spending 3 hours outside doing outside rides, marching up and down Main Street, standing in the hub and just getting baked, and then feeling like you just want to go and lay down in the middle of the Emporium. I've seen people do that. I've seen people sitting down, eyes closed, legs spread out, leaning against a rack of Spirit jerseys. Rather than do that, just alternate indoor rides with outdoor rides. There are ways of walking through shops to get where you're going instead of actually walking on the outside. Walk down the covered arcades on Main Street, but try and do it little and often and then you won't get sapped. It's amazing what 30 seconds air conditioning can do for you. And with that in mind, I would recommend doing sit down meals or long quick service meals indoors. Now, if you've watched my dining tips video, I do say that you're able to take your own sandwiches to save money, get a hot dog and sit in the hub. You can do that, but on very hot days I wouldn't recommend it. It's worth the money to just have that hour and a half sit down experience where you get the air conditioning and the rest and you can all just get yourselves back together. And yes, do go back to the hotel and take a long break if you need it, but there's nothing wrong with going back for 2 hours to the hotel if it means that you can then go back out into the park when it's a bit cooler, when the sun isn't as incessant, and enjoy the evening time. Otherwise you might just make yourselves ill, burn out. Right, some good spots to take a break and find some shade. First of all, you've got this little area outside Casey Jr. and the Storybook boat ride. It's secluded, it's round the back, it's shaded, there's a bridge you can sit under, there's also some trees further down. Tends to be fairly quiet and there are benches, but even if all the benches are filled with other people's bums, it's the kind of place where I don't feel too self-conscious sitting on the ground. That is possibly the best hot weather area. Others include this walkway that goes from Main Street by the Lucky Nugget and under to the Last Chance Cafe and things. There is just a covered area all the way around there that's sort of decking, and that's okay to kind of hover in the darkness away from the sun for a bit. I've already said to walk through the arcades. You can also walk all the way through the Emporium, which has got some lovely air conditioning. That's just a cooler way of getting down Main Street, although we do all love to look at the castle. You've got some spots in Discoveryland, round the back near Mickey's PhilharMagic, and also up by Star Tours. You've got some nice spots that are shaded there. And also make the most of the walk-through attractions that are in the dark. Aladdin's Passage, the Dragon Under the Castle, and Nautilus. They are all basically caves, so they are cool, they are dark, and it's just nice to get out of the sun a bit. Also, it's worth taking in a couple of the shows just to have that 20 minutes sit down and air conditioning. Mickey's PhilharMagic probably being the easiest to do because it runs every 20 minutes all day. It's dark, it's air conditioned, and it's a really good attraction. Make sure as you're going around the park you make a note of where you see water fountains. Fill up your bottle regularly and hydrate. We often use the ones that are under the archway going into Adventureland, but they're fairly easy to find all around the park. Golly gosh, I think that's it. I think that's everything I've got to say. I hope you're all coping with the heat, okay? If you're in the UK, take care when you're over there. Go prepared, look at the weather forecast, and have fun.